This is a video on movement in Chivalry 2, but there are very few things you can do in the game that are not forms of movement. Gestures are movement, and looking around is also movement. Becoming skilled in movement means thinking of nothing in isolation. So while I will go over specific techniques, they will only work for you insofar as you understand their tempo, relations to other techniques, and victory itself. We move with WASD, or the stick, but we also move with our mouse, or the stick, and with control and the spacebar. Our attacks are movements. Your sword needs to touch the body of your enemy, and you want to avoid the path of your enemy's sword. Understanding the nature of your body in space is essential. It should be said that I learned most of what I've learned in social servers, but bringing techniques over to team objective is the dream. Essentially, you can't be good at movement without fundamentally knowing how the game works. This fundamental knowledge is intuitive in nature though. This is to say that first and foremost, you should be ready to boogie. Run and jump, crouch, run in circles, move backwards, look up and down, left and right while you're doing all of these things. Furthermore, it should be like a dance, in the sense that you should move in these various ways at the same time and in rhythm. If you want to psycho max, like you should, you could listen to various BPM metronomes while you go through these movements. Songs are probably better for this though. Stiffness is the enemy. I would also recommend using a mouse over a controller, though I can't definitively prove that it's better. The first thing to know is that keeping your cursor on your enemy, while sometimes good, is the greatest enemy of good movement. The reason for this is simple. You move faster going forward than you do going in any other direction. Think of yourself as a high-speed car rather than an omnidirectional tank of sorts. Aside from dashing, you will in general want to be going forward. Just like a car, you cannot keep your momentum if you change directions on a dime, so you need to become familiar with how fast you can turn while going forwards without killing your momentum. You can avoid many attacks simply by turning, mid-swing or not, while moving forwards. This is one very important reason not to keep your eyes squarely on your opponent. That you know where they are is generally enough, assuming you trust your reflexes and counters. The next reason not to be locked on with your opponent is that it is completely contrary to dragging and excelling. Good movement does not simply mean that you move well, but necessarily involves putting yourself in good positions to hit the enemy. For this reason, and to this end, you will often want to have your opponent to either side, even barely off screen. This is not always the case, but it is something that you should be comfortable with. No manner of play should be foreign to you. It is essential to intuit which position will work best for you in any given context. It should also be said that there are counters to everything, like jab. So some tactics will work against some opponents but not others. It is important to understand the strengths and weaknesses of your own tactics and abandon them if your opponent is poised to defeat them. Unexploited weakness is strength, and exploited strength is weakness. The ability to switch between different play styles on a dime is the highest form of play. When I first began playing Chivalry 2, having come from Chivalry Medieval Warfare, I felt that something was off about the combat of the game. I couldn't help but get locked into counter battles, and things felt very static. The system of initiative is fairly demanding, and being locked into it significantly affects your movement, though not without allowing for subtleties. It's incredibly useful, because of the initiative system, to begin your sequence of movement when you have initiative, since it will not involve blocking. This could be either after you hit your opponent or simply counter them while moving off in a different direction, though this is more dangerous. Your body is most free when you aren't doing anything related to attacking or blocking, and your mind is most free when your opponent is reacting to what you are doing. Cancel function, which I have bound to Q, is an absolute godsend, and you are missing out if you aren't using it. It allows you to cancel attacks that aren't ripostes or counters in the wind-up phase. While this is good in itself for psyching the enemy out and making them reactive prior to any actual engagements, it becomes incredible, particularly for a longsword user such as myself, after you hit your enemy. After hitting them, you begin your next attack and then cancel it. This is dangerous because it leaves you momentarily unable to block at the moment of the cancel, but if you combine this with regular combos and feints, it will be very difficult for your enemy to perceive when you're going to do it. When your attack is cancelled, your body is completely free, so you can easily duck, jump, or do both. Ducking is quite honestly one of the easiest cool techniques to pull off in the game. All you have to do is hit control. Crouching means you don't exist where they would normally hit you. The biggest mistake is doing this when you are attacking, or are staggered from being hit, because your body stiffens up and won't go all the way down. This is easy to perceive eventually in third person, but much harder in first. So you can't be caught in the initiative cycle. It is best from a neutral position. You can duck any kind of attack, but certain overheads like axes, which come straight down as opposed to from an angle, will probably hit you. You can duck on reflex, but it helps to anticipate your opponent's attack and to go with your intuition. There's a tempo, or rhythm, of every interaction and engagement, and the one who perceives this most clearly will most likely win. It is very important to be loose and not afraid of failure. Just crouch, hit control. Moving, not moving. My personal preference is crouching very frequently, because this helps distract them from the other things I am doing and am unconsciously planning on doing, along with naturally ducking attacks and managing distance more precisely. The main thing to keep in mind, if you are not familiar with ducking attacks, is what I like to call hitting the damn button, and hitting the damn button in every context. The rest comes with time. Just try and die. Inexperienced players are your practice partners. They will LMB spam, and this is where the opportunity lies. Eventually, you will understand the timing and the appropriate moments, and you will be able to duck against better players.
Defeat!
One technique that is very effective is crouching and moving backwards directly after you hit an enemy. The automatic response of the jab after being hit is very strong with many players, and this effectively punishes it, though they can still land the jab by crouching themselves, but this is very rare. This is a technique that will give you free hits and kills very often. It's hard to state how effective and significant crouching mid-fight can be. There's ducking directly under attacks, but leaning away in the form of a matrix dodge is equally effective at range, and this is how you best set up jumps. When you are further away at stabbing distance, this means that the only part of your body that will be available to hit are your legs. So they will either miss their attack or be forced to aim directly at your feet. This is the way of ducking. This grows in power the more it is contextualized by your other techniques. To strike without feinting, we feint. To feint, we strike without feinting. Drag, we excel. To excel, we drag. To close the distance, we move away. To move away, we close the distance. To jump, we crouch. To crouch, we jump. To do, we do not. All activity is absence, and all absence is activity. We exist equally in our own minds as in the minds of our opponents, and we are equally visible and obscure to both. It is easier to duck attacks than it is to jump over attacks. This is because it is generally rarer for your opponent to aim for your feet. Overheads, not the purely vertical ones, often fit into this category of attacks that hit your feet, however. In jumping over overheads, it is important to be mobile. It will never work so long as they're aiming directly at you, so you use your forward movement and move away from the horizontal direction of the attack, jumping at the end. Again, failure is necessary, but as with ducking attacks, what is important is hitting the damn space button. This is the only way. Perfect moments are realized only in the mind, and our ability to perceive them is only ever as mature as our practice of any given technique is. Run forward, turn, and jump. This also works against certain drags and spins that are meant to hit you from a downward angle, just as you can duck drags and spins that are meant to hit you from an ascending angle. This moving forward and jumping also works well against stabs because it's harder for them to aim horizontally during the attack. There's also jumping directly over the attack. This is the hardest to do because it presupposes a more developed ducking game. When they anticipate or react to a duck and swipe at the ground, you jump directly over their attack while attacking yourself. You can also spin an attack while jumping away from overheads, and this is always to be encouraged because it's cool. There's nothing more to say other than that this must be practiced. I have mentioned and emphasized that nothing is isolated. When we think of feinting, we think of throwing off enemy counter attempts, but feinting is also essential to movement because it is inseparable from timing. We feint when we are moving and maintaining distance, and through feinting we can time our attacks better. There is little reason not to feint to get the better timing and angle of attack. With reference to this clip, we can also see an additional advantage of crouching. Aside from avoiding high attacks, it also slows down your movement, which means that you can be more precise with your strikes. Crouching and moving backwards while attacking and feinting is a must. There are two more techniques that I will go over, and they are more directly offensive in nature. The first I call turning the corner, but cutting the angle is also appropriate. The essential meaning of this is that you turn yourself towards the direction you were about to swing from when you wouldn't be able to land the attack from that direction otherwise. This will become clear through some examples. Even subtle varieties of this are effective, but more exaggerated limit cases will come across to the inexperienced as simply bizarre. This limit form of the technique is essentially the inverse of a normal spin. For a spin, you typically do a counter feint and turn in accordance with the direction of your final strike, attacking from the outside angle. Instead of this, you reverse the direction of your spin. Notice that in this clip, at the beginning and end of the technique, I am facing the same direction, but I do a 360. There's also footwork involved, but in theory, you could do this without moving your feet. Notice in particular that I'm moving backwards at the end to make the strike line up properly. For most excels, you will move your cursor in the direction of your strike to line your opponent's head up with the beginning of your attack animation. In this case, you initiate an accel through the opposite means. When this technique is mixed with regular spins, it serves as a powerful mix-up, and in general, most players are simply not expecting an attack from this angle. This, like most techniques, can be done from either side, though I'm not good at that yet. This next technique is called pendulum step, because its essence is its rhythm, it's swaying back and forth. Though there are many forms, it can be recognized through the rhythm. It involves changing one's direction of attack in accordance with feints and strikes in a rhythmic way. More sophisticated forms involve moving back and forth and crouching and standing according to the same rhythm. This is the clip where I first realized the technique in a meaningful way. Though it doesn't involve the directional movement that it could, it still serves as a proof of concept, that you can strike and avoid incoming attacks while setting up your next attack nicely. This clip can serve as a light example of the concept. Notice that in the final sequence, I shift my angle from attacking to the right to attacking from the left with the change in my attack. As I start my overhead, I move forwards, as I feint into the slash, I move back, and as I strike, I move forward again. This is a 1, 2, and a silent 3, which is when the attack lands. The pendulum step means understanding the rhythm of your own strikes, and basically your feints, and putting yourself in the proper position to hit them each time, all while moving in a way that will make your attacks harder to read. In this way, it is both basic and sophisticated. This clip shows how ducking works in conjunction with the rest of the movement and attacks. By ducking mid-feint and moving to the outside angle, I avoid his attack while being at a good angle to strike back. In this instance, I miss, but this shows one of the possibilities of the technique. This clip features a cleaner and more complete example of the pendulum step and how it works with same-side attacks. The key is synchronizing your overall movement with your feints, and this will naturally lead to fine cuts. This clip is about gambling and pressure and how this leads to the success of the technique in the moment. After I hit him with a very cheeky spin, I go into an overhead which I cancel. I move out and switch angles with a new overhead, only to switch angles again and hit with a slash. Notice also that all my movements are springy. When switching angles, I rise from a crouch. When returning, I crouch again. Everything is in sync like a dance. This can be the last example. There are many forms of the technique, but this one was just particularly satisfying. I mentioned this in my previous video, but feeling and looking cool is the best fuel, and this form is textbook. It should also be seen here that the form itself follows from lining up your accels properly. Thank you for watching. I hope I have showed that you can't move well unless you do what you do definitively, in the sense that you are executing certain techniques at certain times. It isn't random, and you can feel this when you begin to do it. I got engaged in the game because certain high-level players absolutely styled on me when I was low-level, and I wanted to be able to pull off similar sick tricks. This is to say that you shouldn't play aimlessly. The game is fun in general, but it is best when you are aware of your expanding capacity for action. Always try new things, and try taking the things you already do to ever greater heights. Peace.